Okay, so we are diving deep into Exodus,
That's right.
chapters 4 through 6 this time.
Right.
And
Getting into the nitty gritty.
yeah, getting to it. So we're talking divine signs.
Yeah.
We're talking tense negotiations
Hmm.
and maybe even a little bit of stage fright as we unpack how the Israelites' journey from, slavery to freedom really got going.
And it all hinges on this one guy, right?
Right.
This one guy, Moses,
Yeah.
going from like living out in the middle of nowhere
Yeah.
to becoming like Moses, the leader, the lawgiver, the guy that talks to burning bushes.
Right. And let's be real. He sounds terrified.
Oh, yeah.
God is giving him these incredible powers. I mean, you can turn a staff into a snake. You can cause leprosy just like that. And he's basically like, nope, not a public speaker. No thanks.
It's so easy for us to judge.
Oh, I know.
Right. But imagine being in that position.
Yeah, true.
He's not going on some personal quest here. This is like he's going head to head with Pharaoh,
Right.
the most powerful dude
Yeah. The biggest, baddest guy around.
at the time. This is high stakes stuff.
Yeah. No, that's a really good point. But even still, in chapter 4, he's even kind of arguing back with God a little bit. He's like, I'm not eloquent.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, dude, you're getting cosmic upgrades. Why are you worried about public speaking?
It just goes to show you, even when we're chosen for these really extraordinary things,
Yeah.
we can still be held back by our own insecurities.
Totally.
And Moses, even though he was chosen by God, he was still a human.
Mm.
And he reminds us that even the greatest leaders, they still have their own doubts and fears to overcome.
That's actually kind of comforting.
Yeah.
If Moses can doubt, then I'm allowed to have a little doubt.
Of course.
But, okay, so he's not exactly jumping at this chance. So
Yeah.
God's got to have a plan B.
Right.
He's got a plan.
Okay.
Like,
What's he going to do?
And this is where that brotherly love comes in.
Okay. I like it.
God brings in Aaron,
Okay.
Moses' brother,
Right.
to be the mouthpiece.
The hype man.
Right.
I love it.
And it highlights how important this idea of collaboration is.
Right.
Right? Because you've got Moses, he's got the direct line to God.
He's got the big ideas.
Right.
He's got the vision.
But Aaron, he's got that charisma,
Yes.
the eloquence. He can get that message across.
The smooth talker.
Exactly. I love it. Okay.
Power duo.
All right. So they're going in. They march up to Pharaoh. They're ready to free the Israelites, and he just laughs.
Pretty much. Yeah.
Right. I mean, this guy, he's tough. What's the deal?
So to understand Pharaoh, you got to understand the context.
Okay.
His power completely tied to the Israelites' labor.
Right.
Letting them go would mean economic chaos.
Right.
His entire system crumbles.
Like asking a dragon to give up its horde.
Right.
Right. It's not going to happen.
Exactly.
Okay. So that's Pharaoh's side.
Right.
What about the Israelites? How are they feeling about this whole thing? Are they buying into this, miracles and freedom package deal?
Well, that's where things get really interesting, right? Because these people, they've been through generations of brutal slavery.
Yeah.
I mean, Exodus 5 really paints that picture.
Yeah, it's rough.
They're exhausted. They're suffering. It's so hard to believe in miracles,
Right.
to believe in hope when you're just fighting to survive every single day.
It's like telling someone who's lost in the desert that there's an oasis over the next dune.
Yeah.
They've probably heard that before.
Exactly. And their skepticism, it's not because they're weak.
Right.
It's because they're resilient.
They've learned to survive.
They have learned to survive in a world that's giving them very little hope.
Yeah.
And it shows how deep oppression runs.
Yeah.
It takes more than just words.
Right.
To overcome generations of that kind of trauma, it takes some tangible proof.
Yeah. You gotta see it to believe it. So I guess that's where the plagues come in, right?
Yeah.
If you want to get Pharaoh's attention,
Right.
that's one way to do it.
It's easy to think of the plagues as just like these big dramatic events.
Yeah.
But they were really targeted.
Oh, yeah.
Each one was attacking a really specific part of the foundation of Egyptian society.
Interesting.
Just chipping away at Pharaoh's power.
And his pride too, right?
And it's
Water turning to blood, frogs everywhere, Mother Nature's throwing a tantrum.
That's a good way to put it because, think about it. In ancient Egypt, this wasn't just an inconvenience. These were divine judgments.
Yeah.
Every plague was a challenge to Pharaoh's claim to be this god king.
So it was less about punishing the Egyptians and more about God proving a point.
In a way, yeah.
Okay.
Each plague, it revealed the limits of Pharaoh's power.
Right.
And really showcased the might of the God of Israel.
Right.
But it wasn't just about power, it was about justice too.
Right.
But, you know, freeing people who had been denied even the most basic freedoms.
Yeah. And in chapter 5, right in the middle of all this backbreaking labor that they're doing, God lays it on the line for Moses.
Mm-hmm.
He says that Israel is my son, my firstborn. Talk about upping the stakes.
Oh, for sure. That's where the personal and the political come crashing together.
Right.
Pharaoh sees the Israelites as property,
Right.
but God is claiming them as his children.
Yeah, there's a big difference there.
Huge. It's a clash of worldviews.
Wow.
One built on exploitation, the other on love and liberation.
It's crazy that even with all of this, the plagues, everything that's happening, Pharaoh's still not budging.
I know.
Like, how many wake-up calls does one guy need?
It's easy to just write him off as stubborn, but Exodus 4 actually tells us that God hardened Pharaoh's heart.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
It is.
So how do we wrap our heads around that?
Okay, so it's not about God, like, taking away his free will or anything like that.
Yep.
It's a more complex idea about divine judgment and what happens when we just cling to power,
Right.
you know, no matter the cost.
Okay, so how do we understand that?
Think about it this way. Sometimes we make choices that make us less open to things,
Okay.
less compassionate, maybe we surround ourselves with, like, yes men,
Right.
or ignore the needs of others.
Right.
And it's like Pharaoh's heart became hardened to the suffering that he was causing.
Wow.
You know, he couldn't see clearly anymore.
That's kind of scary
Yeah.
and a little bleak. But I mean, in the middle of all of this drama and this struggle between freedom and oppression, we can't forget about what this is costing the Israelites.
Of course.
You know, Exodus 6 gets really real about their despair.
It does.
Like, they are crushed.
Oh, yeah.
They're hopeless. They're doubting everything.
Yeah, and, you know, it's easy to romanticize revolution, right? But the reality of it is much messier and often more painful.
Right.
And these people were trapped in a system designed to crush their spirits.
Yep.
You know, generations of that kind of trauma, of feeling powerless that doesn't just disappear overnight,
Right.
even with miraculous signs.
So last time we were talking about how, you know, the Israelites are kind of in a rough spot.
Yeah, rough spots, putting it mildly.
Right. They're exhausted. They're doubting. They're probably ready to trade freedom for just like a solid 8 hours.
Yeah. I mean, can you blame them? They've seen these incredible things. They've heard these promises. But generations of trauma, that's hard to shake.
Yeah. It's like, how do you even begin to process that? But this is where we really see some true leadership emerge, right?
Mhm.
And not just for Moses.
Right.
Exodus 6 does something really cool here.
Right.
Right when things are the absolute bleakest, it's like we get this introduction to these everyday heroes,
Oh, yeah.
these heads of the Israelite families. Like, it's almost like a genealogy at first, but it's so much more than that.
Yeah. Oh, it's huge. And you're right. It's easy to just kind of gloss over those names. But those are the people, right? Revolutions aren't just about one charismatic leader. It's about everyday people.
That's a good point.
Those individuals, they each carry their own story, their own lineage. And they're the ones who are actually going to carry the weight of the Exodus, the ones who will build that new future.
Man, I'm getting chills just thinking about it. So, okay, how do they actually make the move? Is it like a mass revolt? Do they like storm Pharaoh's palace? How does this go down?
That's the thing about the Exodus. It's not a Hollywood movie, right?
Okay.
It's a story about faith and perseverance and, divine intervention.
Right.
Remember those plagues we were talking about?
Yeah.
They weren't just about punishment. They were about breaking Pharaoh's grip on power,
Right.
forcing his hand,
God was playing chess and Pharaoh never even stood a chance.
pretty much. And as that resistance starts to crumble, the Israelites, they're told to prepare. Gather your stuff, pack your food, be ready to move. Just imagine like hearing those words, freedom, it's finally within reach.
There had to be some celebrating going on.
Yeah.
But even with that, I mean, the wilderness, that's no picnic.
No, it's not. But the Exodus, it's not just about liberation. It's about transformation.
Right.
It's about confronting, external enemies like Pharaoh, but also our own internal stuff.
Yeah, the doubts and fears we all carry around.
Exactly.
And leaving Egypt, I mean, that's the only world they've ever known. It makes you think.
Yeah.
Don't we all face our own pharaohs, the challenges, the setbacks, the things that make us question everything?
All the time. So as we wrap up this deep dive into Exodus chapters 4 through 6, think about that. What can we learn from this journey? How can their story inspire us to face our own limitations, to embrace working together, and to find that courage to step into the unknown even when the path ahead seems impossible?
That's a good word.
Welcome to Charlie and Mia's podcast. We're embarking on an exciting journey to read through the entire Bible in just 1 year. Every day, we dive into Scripture, exploring its meanings and how it applies to our lives today. We invite you to join us on this incredible adventure of learning and discovery. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel so you never miss an episode.